Hello, welcome to Yin Massage. So, today's Yin, we're really going to be getting into the hips and the legs, the emotional centers of the body, with some really long holds. And I'm finding that this time of year, as we're going through all these different transitions and even coming into winter, there's a lot of held angst. There's a lot of held resistance to what is, and we're not processing it. We're either using drugs or alcohol to numb it, movies or people to distract us, but there's some real pain and some real held emotions that need to be felt so that they can be released from the body. And this is a way of loving ourselves, loving our whole selves, by giving us that time to get deep down into the tissues that hold some of that adrenaline memory and release it, relax it out so that we can feel vibrant, alive, and light. So as I experience cabin fever and restlessness at this time of isolation, my hope is that through this practice you will find better clarity in how to process troubling emotions when they come up. We're going to be dealing with some of the old stuff, but my hope is through this practice we learn to identify and release the new stuff so we no longer trap stuff there. And the hips are notorious for holding our emotional spaces. So the only props you're going to need today are a block, maybe a couple blocks, a bolster, so something to support your back that's long enough, so a bolster or a couple of pillows will work, or a rolled up blanket. Okay, so we're just going to begin in a butterfly hold. So bring your feet together like so. And kind of have them come out a little far. And place the block right underneath you. Just kind of feel a little bit. Cool. So kind of come out in this diamond shape. Hold your ankles and then slowly hinge and come down. And we're going to hold here for about 4 minutes. This is a gentle butterfly opening pose to gently get us into our hips and let gravity do some of the work. As your back begins to release, you can let your forehead come down onto the block. You want to make sure your head has a place to rest. Make sure you're not craning your neck. Make sure your feet are comfortable and that you can hold here for a few minutes. So everyone's flexibility here is going to be different. Place the block on the inside of your feet or on the outside. Just allow your back to fold down. Just let gravity do the work. In Yin, we are not pushing or pulling or forcing any shape. We are simply allowing gravity to move the ligaments and joints and muscles down and apart. My butterfly right now, my heels are quite close to me. It's okay if they're close or far. The sensation slowly will be a stretch in both hips and the inner groin. It'll start as a gradual release and slowly create more space with time, and just breathe. It's okay if your forehead hasn't touched the block yet. As your back and hips begin to open up, create some space, it'll slowly get there. Or the next few times you do this practice, create more space, more opening, ability to touch the block, let it hold you. But in either case, let the head and the neck just relax, hang heavy. One more minute. So often people ask, how are you doing? And the conditioned response from myself, and I'm sure for many of you, is, oh, I'm fine. The big F word, which tells us nothing, is almost always dishonest about how we're really feeling. Today's practice will take us behind the curtains of fine, and help us feel what's really going on deep down. Now, very slowly, come on up. Good. Close the knees together. You can remove the block. Come back into that butterfly pose. And from here, take your left leg and move it so that your left thigh is touching the bottom of your right foot. So kind of have this nice little line here. Grab your bolster. Shuffle myself to give myself a little space. And place it on the inside of your right thigh, kind of in line with your right hip. We're going to go into deer pose, 3 minutes on each side. First side, leaning towards the right, so stand up tall. Your legs are comfortable, connected, and lean over the bolster so that your torso's on top, right cheek holding. 3 minutes here. You can let your hands rest on either side of the bolster. If you need a little more space, you can bring the bolster closer into your right hip, turning your torso over even more. That'll help activate a nice stretch on the left side. And you're not going for your edge here. This is deer pose. It's a wonderful pose to open up the side of our body. Bring us into calm. Feel yourself heavy. And it's not uncommon in the first few poses of a yin practice for the mind to be very busy, especially if you've been very active. It's totally normal. But with each breath, just try to focus on one thought instead of jumping from one to one or being impatient about how much longer am I in this pose. This is a gentle pose. This is time for yourself to relax and heal, come to stillness, but not a dead stillness. Not dormant, not inert, but very alive, vibrant, relaxed. Allow your body to sink into the floor and the bolster or pillow. We've built up a lot of momentum throughout our day, our week, our month, our year. Sometimes we have to let that momentum run its course before we can pick things back up. But this is our chance to slow it all down and chart a new path. Slowly press up with your hands. Lead from the waist, torso, then the neck. And switch sides. So come into that butterfly pose. Bring your bolster onto the left hip. Take that right leg, place the right thigh to meet the left foot, bottom of the left foot. Turn the torso so that it's kind of square, straight on. And come down onto the bolster or pillow on your left side, leaning on your left cheek. 3 minutes here. And if you find that your arms are bearing a lot of weight, make some space so that you can really press down into the bolster and feel the right side of your body elongating, resting. Your legs subtly stretching, grounding you. When our lives are so busy, or we make them busy, it's important to have at least one time, hopefully every day, but if not, at least once a week, to slow all the trains down, check in. Yin is not rest. It is not Yoga Nidra, which I hope to show you soon. It's an active practice, but you are not doing the activating. You're placing your body in fairly comfortable positions most of the time. And gravity and the body's natural alignment are readjusting all the muscle fibers, ligaments, joints, fascia, all the tight knots and blockages. And every time you breathe, it's rebalancing and readjusting that down, all the way down to the bones. This practice can elongate your life by many years, but give you strength and power by giving you time to consciously rest and stretch. And be at peace with your body and the forces of nature around you. Slowly begin to push yourself up with your hands, followed by your hips and waist, chest, shoulders, and then your head. Very good. Now, we're going to extend our legs out in front of us. Place the bolster behind the back. Now, if you can, take your left leg and tuck your knee in so it's here along your side. Take the right and do the same so that your knees are almost touching. If they need a little space, that's fine. Tops of your feet planted into the ground and have the bolster behind you. Now, if your knees are already activated and aching, come out of it. Extend one leg and do the pose one leg at a time. I'll let you know when to switch. If you're okay, stay on these two knees. We're going to get into the quads and the hips here with reclined hero pose. Slowly lean back onto the bolster or pillows, and you can use as many as you need to for height here until the low back hits. And come down onto your elbows. Now here might be enough, might be fine. Make sure you have an extra pillow to support your head here. And just breathe. We're going to be here for 4 minutes. And maybe instantly, or maybe after a few breaths, you find that you have a little more space to come down fully onto your forearms. The way you'll know is that your knees stay on the ground. If your knees are flying up, you've gone too far. You're putting tension in your low back, and we don't want any tension in yin. The whole purpose here is to melt that away. So come out of it onto your forearms or into a single leg variation. This stretch can be very intense. This is probably going to be one of the longest quad stretches you've ever held. But the benefit is so good. In these longer held postures, what's happening is we are cutting off circulation from these muscle groups and these joints. And then when we slowly come out of a pose, all that blood that wasn't there before, which has now been able to circulate in through our heart and reoxygenate, goes back into the muscles and the tissues, replenishing them, revitalizing the cells. So it's like cutting off a garden hose that's still on, holding it, pressing it so that no water's coming out, and then slowly reopen it so that the water can flow. And it's so good for our muscles to do this. Breathe deep. If you're in the single leg variation, come on up and switch to the other side. Gonna feel some tingling. Your body might be saying, you need to get out of this pose right now. And if it's uncomfortable, that's okay. That's the purpose of some of these more intense yin postures. If it's painful, slowly come out and come into a different pose, or a different variation. However, if it is only uncomfortable, breathe into your quads, breathe into your legs, and watch what happens as relaxation in those big muscles give you more space and actually allow you to settle in. It's okay to feel discomfort. It's a question of, do we deal with it even if the feeling's overwhelming, or do we tuck it away? And as we get older, we realize the ramifications of not processing discomfort when it happens, not dealing with obstacles in the moment. And life gets busy, we forget to come back to it, but our bodies don't forget. They hold it. They hold that energy, that discomfort, that tension, and sometimes you don't know it's there until something happens or we get triggered. So here, let's consciously release. Slowly come up onto your elbows. Lift yourself up very slowly. Push up off of your feet in the palms of your hands. Come up onto rock pose. Slowly bring your fingers or your feet and your legs out in front of you. Might have some creak in the knees. It's okay. That's okay. You can move the bolster out of the way for right now. Put your feet on the ground. Feel all of that rich oxygenated blood flowing down into your toes and your feet. Feel how alive they are. Enjoy that sensation. Widen your feet a little bit and just move your knees from side to side to activate the hips a touch. Good. Now, come up onto your hands and knees. Bring your right foot forward so you're into a low lunge. Okay. Hands framing that front foot. Keep the back toes. Well, actually no. Untuck the back toes and move that right foot over to the outside of your mat so you're creating a nice bit of space. So here, you can grab your blocks or your bolster, or none if you don't want to. And we're going to come into lizard lunge on the left side, holding for 2 minutes. So you can hold here on your hands. You can come down onto your forearms on the bolster or blocks, whichever is more comfortable for you. I'm kind of happy here because bolster is giving me some nice support. So hold for a couple minutes here. Notice stretch in the right hip. Let your head hang heavy. whatever thoughts are coming up that might be uncomfortable, distressing, anxious in nature, notice the feeling that goes along with them. That is the emotion that is trapped in your thighs, in your hips, in your legs. So soften your face and exhale it out. Those sensations will pass. 45 more seconds. Lizard can be very intense, so come up into a lighter variation if you need it, if it becomes painful. But if it is at the edge of your stretch, I encourage you to stay there and breathe to know that you can go a little further and gain that flexibility. Good. Slowly come up onto your hands. Slide that right leg to come onto all fours. Pause. Breathe here. Notice the sensation in your right hip, in your right leg, in your toes. The recovery it's receiving. The tensions and angst that might have been released. And at the very least, a very grateful right hip and leg for that stretch. Let's give the left that same joy. So bring the left foot forward so that we come into a lunge on the left side. Move the left foot so the outside edge is to the edge of the mat. Position your bolster or block. And come down for lizard on the left. It's okay, of course it's okay, that this side might not have as much depth, that you might need a different variation, that you might need to come up onto your hands or something like that. Use a different prop. But again, if it's so long as it's not painful, if your body's shaking, if your leg's shaking, if your hands are shaking, breathe into it for a little bit and then come back off. But find the variation that you can sit in that gives you that intense stretch in that inner left thigh and the inner hip. Leaning forward, letting your head hang heavy. Relaxing your face, relaxing your jaw. Try to relax the back of the eyes, the roots of the hair, the roots of the teeth. Relax your tongue, your ears. "45 more seconds. Deep breathing. And slowly come up onto your hands. Come up out of the stretch. Move that leg back slowly. Come onto all fours. Shake it out. Good. Now, come onto a cross-legged position. Now we're going to do one last hip integrator. Gomukhasana, or cow face pose. This is a wonderful yin hip engager. So take your, if you can, so for some, might not have the hip flexibility for this, stay in a cross-legged position. If you can, bring your left knee so that it's pointing in front of you torso-wise. For some, this might be where you're here. Your ankle crosses just above the knee. What I want you to try is moving that right knee so that it's stacked on top of the left. So that your feet are hanging out like this, flexed, like cow's ears. Okay, and just hold here for a couple minutes. You should start to feel a stretch across the thighs and both hips. Keep the spine straight. Any discomfort, breathe it out. Your heart starts beating. If there's some adrenaline coming out, that is all physical toxins built up from stress over time. That's just asking for release. Breathe in the goodness, exhale the tension. As you settle into this side, you can lean forward a touch to engage more of the hip. One more minute on this side. Relax your face. When we engage the hips so much like this, a lot of tension that's stored there moves up and can get trapped in the face, giving us headaches, migraines, stress, worry. So the key is to breathe and let the tension come out of the body. So it's so important to keep the face, the hair, the jaw, the neck relaxed. And very slowly pick your torso up. Very slowly help guide your right leg over. Legs out in front. Shake them out a little bit. And Gomukhasana on the other side. So this time right knee's forward. Position your left knee on top best you can. Different flexibility on different sides. Again, the shape is not as important as the feeling. Are you getting a nice pull on both hips? In particular on the left. So extend the spine, and a couple minutes on this side. As much as I love Hatha flow or Vinyasa flow, Kundalini, very dynamic, very engaged flows. We're no less engaged here. We're very conscious of every breath and every release of tension in the muscle tissues, but we are not forcing it to happen. We're not resisting gravity like in a downward dog or a headstand. We're very much allowing gravity to move the body in the way it needs to for everything to align and adjust so it can feel healthy and clear and connected. 1 more minute. If you've created some space, feel free to lengthen the spine, lean forward just a touch. I remember I was doing this pose once in a yin class and I felt so angry. It like just this wave of anger came through me, and it got directed at the teacher, got directed at myself, and it was in this posture. And once I came out of it, I had time to reflect on it. I was like, wow. I had no reason to be angry coming into this yin class with this sweet lady, but that was down there. There was an anger that was there that was begging to be released. And I felt it, but it's better to let it go here on the mat than out into the world on someone you love, coworker, your boss. Could jeopardize a lot of things. Best to deal with your emotions here, where it's safe, where it's controlled, where you have no fear of the release. Come on up slowly. Very good. Now I want you to find a wall or a door somewhere that you can put your feet up. I'm going to adjust my mat a little bit. Bring your hips, your left hip, right to the wall, and then slowly turn and put your feet up. And we're just going to hold this for about 3 minutes. We've done a lot of leg work, a lot of hip work, getting oxygenated blood in there, running through, shuttling nutrients, hydrating fascia, hydrating joints. And now we want all of that rich blood and circulation to get into the heart, to really seal in and integrate with the rest of the body. You should feel light and easy and safe. This practice can directly affect the chemistry in your body and in your brain, shifting your sensation of neurotransmitters from your stress hormones and cortisol to the feel-good serotonin, endorphin, dopamine, oxytocin releases that come from relaxation, from release. It's also not uncommon for people to cry in a yin class, if that's what's down there. If you're on your own, you can cry, you can scream, you can laugh, or you can just chill. They're all perfectly fine. The whole point is to release the energy that you no longer want, so that you can embody and attract the energy and sensations that you do want. We also spend so much time on our legs, walking, sitting, our back, holding us up all day. We really only give them a break when we go to sleep, and that's an awful long time to ask of our lower body and our back. No wonder we get tired so often. So we always put our legs up the wall, but make it a habit, make it a choice. Slowly bring the legs down and shift yourself into your final resting pose, Shavasana. In Yin, it's really nice to have a blanket to put over you. Rest your head on a pillow. Just soak in and rest. And take a real big breath down into your belly. And exhale. Try to extend the inhale and exhale this time, even by a second. And exhale. Try to make them the same. So if you inhale for 5, exhale for 5. If you inhale for 7, exhale for 7. Feel the stabilization of energy in your hips and legs and torso, arms. Feel all those wonderful tingles and vibrations. Notice any lightness or ease that you're experiencing. Please stay in Shavasana for a few more moments, and really as long as you want to. Enjoying the lightness and relaxation that you've invited into your body. Thank you for taking the time to practice. In particular, to practice Yin. So many benefits come from this simple but powerful practice. I wish you very well. Namaste.